Every family protects a story that says, we are loyal, we are respectable, we love one another. And whenever reality threatens that story, someone must be blamed. There is often one person whose name appears whenever anything goes wrong. When the parents fight, this person created the tension. When a sibling becomes jealous, this person was showing off. When they defend themselves, they are called aggressive. When they remain silent, their silence becomes proof of guilt. And when they finally leave, the family says their absence proves that they never cared. Thousands of years ago, an ancient community performed a symbolic ritual. Its wrongdoing was placed upon a goat, and the animal was driven into the wilderness, carrying what belonged to everyone else. Modern families rarely use an altar. They use a person. They choose one member to carry the anger, shame, envy, failure, and secrets that the family cannot admit belong to the entire system. Psychology calls this person the family scapegoat. But the scapegoat is not always the weakest member. Sometimes they are the person who sees too much, the person who asks the forbidden question, the person who refuses to pretend that dysfunction is love. Across 6 chapters, we will uncover the role nobody admits exists, how a family selects its target, why siblings participate in the blame, what the role does to a person's identity, what happens when the scapegoat finally leaves, and how someone can escape the role without carrying it into every future relationship. If you want to understand the hidden forces controlling human behavior, subscribe to Mind Trap. Because sometimes the person accused of destroying the family is the person who accidentally exposed what was already broken. Chapter 1. The role nobody admits exists. A family is more than a collection of individuals. It is an emotional system. Every person's behavior affects everyone else, creating invisible patterns of loyalty, tension, dependence, and control. Psychiatrist Murray Bowen developed family systems theory to explain this interconnected structure. He observed that when anxiety enters a family, it does not remain evenly distributed. It travels, it passes between relationships until it finds somewhere to settle. In a healthy family, tension can be discussed. People can admit mistakes. Conflicts can exist without one person becoming permanently defined by them. But in a dysfunctional family, accountability feels dangerous. If the father admits that his anger frightens everyone, his authority may weaken. If the mother admits that she protects one child more than another, her identity as a loving parent may collapse. If siblings acknowledge their jealousy, they must confront parts of themselves they would rather deny. The family therefore discovers a psychological shortcut. Instead of examining the system, it examines one person. Family therapists sometimes call this member the identified patient. The person presented as though they are the source of the family's difficulties. They may be the one taken to therapy, the one described as unstable, the one relatives whisper about before they enter the room. Their behavior becomes visible while the environment surrounding that behavior disappears. Imagine a woman confronting her family after years of humiliation. She says, "The way you speak to me is hurting me." Nobody investigates whether she is telling the truth. They study her tone. One sibling calls her dramatic. Another says she always ruins family gatherings. Her parents accuse her of remembering everything incorrectly. The conversation is no longer about what happened to her. It becomes a trial of how she reacted to it. This is one of the scapegoating system's most effective tricks. It transforms a person's reaction to mistreatment into evidence that they deserved the mistreatment. The family says, "We treat you this way because you are difficult." But it never asks whether years of being treated this way helped create the anger, defensiveness, or isolation it now condemns. Cause and effect are reversed. The wound becomes the crime. This does not mean that every person criticized by their family is a scapegoat. Sometimes criticism is justified. Sometimes multiple people contribute to a conflict. Scapegoating is different because the blame becomes repetitive, disproportionate, and almost impossible to disprove. Other family members are allowed context. The scapegoat is given a character defect. When another sibling loses control, they were under pressure. When the scapegoat loses control, that is simply who they are. The family does not merely accuse them of making a mistake. It builds an identity around the accusation. And once that identity has been accepted, everything they do will be interpreted through it. Chapter 2. How the family chooses its target. Scapegoats are not always chosen consciously. There is rarely a secret family meeting where everyone decides whom to blame. The process can begin through thousands of small interactions. A parent feels unusually anxious around one family member. They watch that person more closely. They interpret ordinary behavior as evidence of a problem. Then they begin treating the person according to that interpretation. Bowen described a related pattern as the family projection process. A parent fears that something is wrong with one child, searches for confirmation, and then behaves as if the feared problem has already been proven. Over time, the person may begin reacting to the constant suspicion. That reaction then appears to confirm the original belief. The prediction helps manufacture its own evidence. The target may be selected because they are emotionally sensitive, because they resemble a rejected relative, because they do not fit the family's preferred identity, because they reveal secrets, or simply because blaming them reduces tension between more powerful members. Sometimes the scapegoat is the person who challenges the unspoken rules. Do not question your father. Do not mention your mother's favoritism. Do not confront the sibling everyone protects. Do not describe abuse as abuse. Do not embarrass the family by telling the truth outside the house. The person who violates these rules becomes dangerous, not necessarily because they are wrong, but because they threaten the agreement keeping the family's image alive. From that moment, the scapegoat enters a psychological trap. If they protest, they are aggressive. If they withdraw, they are cold. If they succeed, they believe they are better than everyone. If they struggle, the family finally has proof that it was right about them. Even healing can be turned against them. Setting a boundary becomes punishment. Refusing an argument becomes disrespect. Going to therapy becomes evidence that they are mentally unstable. The standard changes whenever the scapegoat gets close to meeting it, because the family does not truly need better behavior from them. It needs the role to continue. Research on parental differential treatment shows that siblings can experience very different levels of warmth, hostility, and control inside the same household. They may share parents, walls, and family names, but they do not necessarily experience the same family. One child may remember protection, another remembers surveillance. One remembers laughter at the dinner table, another remembers being the subject of it. This is why siblings can grow into adults with completely conflicting versions of childhood. The protected sibling may insist, "Our parents never treated us badly." And from their position, that may feel true. They are using their experience to erase an experience they were never forced to live. Chapter 3. Why everyone joins the lie. A scapegoating system cannot survive through one accuser alone. It requires witnesses, defenders, messengers, and people who know something is wrong but remain silent because silence keeps them safe. In family psychology, triangulation occurs when tension between two people pulls a third person into the conflict. Instead of confronting each other directly, family members redirect their anxiety through someone else. Scapegoating can become an extreme version of this emotional arrangement. A struggling marriage may suddenly appear united when both parents agree that one family member is the problem. Siblings who secretly resent one another can temporarily bond by criticizing the same person. The family achieves unity, but only through exclusion. It is not genuine peace. It is negative peace, created by placing the conflict outside the alliance. Participating in this system offers psychological rewards. The person who joins the blame receives approval. They avoid scrutiny. They are allowed to feel morally superior, and most importantly, they reduce the possibility of becoming the next target. A sibling may privately understand that the scapegoat is being treated unfairly, but defending them carries a price. The family may accuse the defender of being manipulated, disloyal, unstable, or just like them. So the sibling slowly learns that belonging requires distance from the accused person. They may laugh at the jokes, repeat private information, remain silent when the story is distorted. Eventually, fear becomes habit, and habit begins to look like belief. The family's shared memory then changes. A complicated history is compressed into one simple narrative. Everything was fine until that person caused trouble. The father's anger disappears. The mother's denial disappears. The sibling rivalry disappears. Years of favoritism, humiliation, and unresolved pain disappear. Only the scapegoat's reaction remains visible. When the scapegoat attempts to correct the story, the family rarely experiences it as clarification. They experience it as another attack. Facts alone cannot easily destroy the narrative because the narrative was never built to discover the truth. It was built to protect the system. The scapegoat is therefore fighting more than an accusation. They are fighting an emotional agreement that gives everyone else somewhere to place what they do not want to carry. And this is why the role can survive for decades. Not because every accusation is true, but because too many people benefit from never questioning it. Yet something dangerous happens when a person hears the same story about themselves for long enough. They may begin carrying the family's voice inside their own mind, and even after they escape the house, the role may follow them. Chapter 4. What the scapegoat becomes. When blame is repeated long enough, it no longer needs to come from another person. The scapegoat begins delivering it to themselves. A mistake at work feels like proof of personal failure. A delayed message feels like rejection. A disagreement feels like the beginning of abandonment. Even kindness can create suspicion. Because when affection was once mixed with humiliation, the nervous system learns that safety can disappear without warning. Many scapegoats become hyper-aware of other people's emotions. They study facial expressions. They notice changes in tone. They enter rooms and immediately measure the tension. This may look like emotional intelligence, but underneath it can be survival. They learned early that detecting someone's anger before it exploded gave them time to prepare. Others become compulsive explainers. They provide evidence for simple decisions. They repeat themselves. They defend motives nobody questioned. They are not merely communicating. They are unconsciously standing inside the old family courtroom, trying to prove their innocence before another verdict arrives. Some become perfectionists. If they never fail, perhaps nobody can blame them. Some become chronic rescuers. If they remain useful, perhaps nobody will abandon them. And others become emotionally unreachable. If nobody gets close, nobody can redefine them. But the deepest wound is often uncertainty about their own perception. When an entire family contradicts one person's memory, that person may begin asking, what if I really am the problem? What if I exaggerated everything? What if their version is true because there are more of them? This is how collective blame becomes internalized shame. The scapegoat stops saying, something painful happened to me. They begin saying, there is something wrong with me. Yet the role can also produce unusual strengths. The scapegoat may become fiercely independent, psychologically observant, and resistant to social pressure. But pain should not be romanticized. Not every scapegoat becomes stronger. Some spend decades fighting battles that ended years ago. Others unconsciously enter relationships where they are blamed again because the role feels familiar. Escaping the family does not automatically remove the family from the mind. Chapter 5. What happens when the scapegoat leaves? When the scapegoat finally leaves, the family may not experience it as separation. It may experience it as rebellion. The person who once absorbed everyone's tension is no longer available. Arguments that were redirected toward them begin returning to their original relationships. Parents may confront problems inside their marriage. Siblings may turn against one another. Secrets become harder to contain. The family has lost its emotional dumping ground. This is why the scapegoat's departure can trigger sudden emergencies, accusations, or attempts to pull them back. Relatives may say, "Your mother is suffering because of you. After everything this family did for you, you disappeared. Why can't you forget the past and keep the family together?" Notice what is happening. The person who was blamed for disrupting the family is now blamed for refusing to return and repair it. The accusation changes. The role remains. If guilt fails, the family may attack the scapegoat's reputation. Extended relatives hear carefully edited stories. The boundary becomes cruelty. Distance becomes arrogance. Self-protection becomes betrayal. The family may prefer a version in which the scapegoat left without reason, because accepting the real reason would require examining what happened before the departure. Sometimes another family member is selected to replace them. A sibling who once participated in the blame may suddenly discover that the protection was temporary. The target was never the real problem. The family simply needed someone in the position. But leaving physically is only the first separation. The more difficult separation is psychological. A person can live thousands of miles away and still organize every decision around proving the family wrong. They may chase success to humiliate those who doubted them, post happiness to provoke regret, rehearse imaginary arguments at night. The family is no longer in the room, but it is still controlling the direction of their life. Freedom does not begin when the scapegoat escapes the house. It begins when the family's judgment is no longer the center of their identity. Chapter 6. Breaking the role without becoming it. Healing begins by separating responsibility from identity. A healthy person can say, "I handled that situation badly." The scapegoat was trained to say, "I ruin every situation." One describes behavior, the other condemns the entire self. Escaping scapegoating does not require believing that you have never made mistakes. It requires refusing to carry responsibility for everyone else's mistakes alongside your own. The next step is to stop returning to the family courtroom. Some scapegoats spend years collecting evidence, hoping that one perfect explanation will finally make everyone understand. But a system built to avoid accountability does not collapse because the scapegoat presents a better argument. You cannot receive a fair verdict from a court that depends upon your guilt. Boundaries, therefore, cannot be negotiations for permission. A boundary is not, "You must understand why this hurts me." It is, "If the insults begin, I will end the conversation." The first depends upon their agreement. The second depends upon your action. For some people, healing involves structured contact. For others, distance or no contact may be necessary, especially when relationships remain abusive or unsafe. There is no single answer for every family. The goal is not revenge. The goal is clarity. The scapegoat must also resist building a new identity entirely around being the victim. Pain explains certain reactions, but it cannot be allowed to control every future relationship. Not every criticism is persecution. Not every disagreement is manipulation. Real freedom includes the ability to examine your own behavior without collapsing into shame. This is how the cycle ends. You stop carrying guilt that belongs to other people. without handing all your guilt to someone else. You stop searching for a new scapegoat. You become responsible for yourself, and only yourself. The ancient scapegoat was sent into the wilderness, carrying the symbolic wrongdoing of an entire community. But a human being is not a vessel for a family's shame. One person cannot heal a system by accepting all its blame. They can only disappear beneath it. Perhaps your family will never admit what happened. Perhaps they will continue repeating the same story after you leave. They may never apologize. They may never give you the confession that finally makes everything feel real. Healing cannot remain dependent upon that moment, because the final stage of freedom is not convincing the family that you were innocent. It is realizing that they were never qualified to define you. You may have made mistakes, you may carry wounds, you may still have parts of yourself that need to change, but you are not the anger your family refused to confront. You are not the marriage you could not repair. You are not the secrets you were punished for revealing, and you are not the role assigned to you before you were old enough to understand it. The family may keep its story, but you no longer have to live inside it. The scapegoat becomes free when they finally place the burden down, walk out of the wilderness, and refuse to carry it again.